Hello lovely people, today I'm going to be doing the mid-year book Freakout tag.
Dooby 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 doo. Dooby 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 Sophie vlogs.
I know I am a bit late to this, I know everyone has already done it, I'm hoping you don't mind that I've come at it slightly later, but I still wanted to do it, so I'm just going to crack on. The first question is, best book you've read so far? I'm picking 3 because, hey, why pick 1 when you can pick 3? So, first up is the 5th season by N.K. Jemisin. I know that this is a favourite of a lot of people. I can't believe it took me this long to actually read it. I absolutely loved it. This is one of the most, exciting science fiction fantasy series I've picked up in a long time. It's about a world where you have seasons. 5th season is like a catastrophic sort of society-ending event, and there's lots of structures in place for how you survive these things. At the start of this book, a new 5th season is happening, and we sort of follow 3 different perspectives. And I won't give you any more information because I think just diving into this without a lot of information is kind of a really great way to do it, because you just sort of have to piece together what's going on, and then as things are revealed to you, it's really, really great. But I absolutely loved this. After that is The Gift of Rain by Twan. I just thoroughly enjoyed this one. I talk about this in more depth in my Asian Readathon wrap-up, which I'll leave a link to down below. But this was just everything that I didn't know I wanted to read at the time. It's set in Malaysia. Just before World War II breaks out. We follow a guy called Philip and his relationship with this Japanese man called Hayato, and this relationship has such ramifications, especially during the Japanese occupation of Malaysia, and I just thought it was a really beautifully written book which explores some really heavy topics. It's not always the lightest of books, but I just thought it was absolutely beautiful and I really enjoyed it. The third book is Jane Unlimited by Kristin Cashore, which is sort of a choose your own adventure meets the multiverse. This woman goes to this island, she reaches this point and there are 5 different people she can follow, and you get to see what would have happened depending on who she followed. It's very playing with genre, playing with multiverse timeline type things, also sort of riffing off of Rebecca. It was really lovely and exciting, and I really enjoyed it. So those are the 3 that have been particular highlights, but it's been a good reading year, I think. Question number 2 is best sequel you've read so far. This was a little tricky because I was going to say I haven't read a lot of sequels. I've read a lot of sequels from the same series. So I've gone for The Fire Dragon by Katharine Kerr. These books are going to start popping up in some book chats very, very soon because I've been on a bit of a drive to finish this series, which is very long. This is, it says book 3 of The Dragon Mage, but it's actually book 10, 11, I'm not sure, of the series as a whole. So my fuller thoughts on this series will be coming to you in some book chats, but this is a Celtic-inspired fantasy whereby the whole thing is a bit like a Celtic knot. You have reincarnation is a thing. We have the same souls in different incarnations. Things that happen in the past have repercussions for things that happen in our contemporary plot lines. There's a lot of flipping between timelines and stuff like that. This one was my highlight favorite so far because this one really wrapped up a particular arc that I really enjoyed. Sometimes past lives have more relevance than others, and this was one where I felt that really worked very well. So this is a series that most of the sequels I've read this year have been from that series, so I had to choose it. Question number 3 is a new release you haven't read yet but want to. There are so many. I've not been buying books lately. I've been on a book buying ban until I read through more of my owned books, and it's made me really be aware of the types of books that I don't have enough of right now that I really want to be reading. The one I've gone for is All Boys Aren't Blue, because I've just heard so many amazing things about it, and I just think it sounds so interesting. It's a series of essays by George M. Johnson that's exploring his life and his identities and that sort of thing. I've heard so many good things, and I really want to prioritize getting my hands on it soon. I have a whole wish list that when I've got through enough books that I own, I'm then allowed to splurge on, and that's top of my list. Question number 4 is most anticipated release for the second half of the year. I've gone for Piranesi, which is, oh lord, I've forgotten the author's name. I'm horrendous at this. Jonathan Strange and Miss Norrell by Susanna Clarke. That's who it is. That's a book that I really enjoyed when I read it. It's set during the Napoleonic Wars. It really mimics that sort of style of writing from the time, but it's also to do with English magic and magicians and stuff. I just think it's a bit of a chunker, and I understand why some people don't get on with it, but I found it absolutely fascinating and interesting. And so I'm so interested to see what her follow-up work is and what form it's going to take. Like, is it going to be in a similar style? Is it going to be, like, completely different? I just don't know. But I'm so intrigued by what that's going to do. Question number 5 is biggest disappointment. I've gone for 2. Because the first one is, like, the first one I went for is Once and Future, which I hesitated to choose because I don't think it's a terrible book. It's just that when you tell me, like, queer, gender-bent retelling of King Arthur in space, my expectations are, like, super high, and whilst there are things that I liked about it, like I loved the normalization of queerness, I loved how that was just, like, part of the world, that sort of thing, I also had some real, like, stumbling blocks with this, namely, like, the pacing and the character development. I just felt like both of those didn't really do what I wanted them to do. Like, sometimes it was really slow, and sometimes things happen really fast, and then, like, characters are just like, oh, now we've met, and now suddenly we're together and in love, and I was just like, but when did this happen? Stuff like that. So, like, I was frustrated with that book because I wanted so much, and then what I got, I was like, it's fine. So I don't think it's a bad book, and I think that, like, a lot of people, I understand why they really, really love it. It's just that, like, I wanted so much because I love Arthuriana, so I, like, high expectations, and I was just like, oh, disappointment. The second book I've gone for is one that I just didn't enjoy, and that's News from Nowhere by William Morris, because I mention all the time that I really like the Pre-Raphaelites. I think William Morris is cool insofar as he put his hand to so many things, and I think he's very interesting. This did not work for me. So News from Nowhere is like, it's like a fictional story about, like, this guy living in Victorian times, and then he just, like, wakes up, and then he's, like, in the far future, and essentially it's like this experiment of, like, showing you, like, what this ideal socialist society would look like. But I had so many problems with the socialist society that's being portrayed. I didn't even finish it. I DNF'd it, largely because of a number of reasons, one of which being there's, like, this weird association. I say weird, it happens all the time. There's this association with, like, badness equals ugliness, goodness equals beauty, and in a way that is becoming very ableist, where it's like, we no longer have leprosy anymore because we're just so morally good now. And I'm like, that's not how diseases work. That's not, no, please don't, no. There was also, like, women are emancipated now, they just are always doing the housework because they really like it. And I was like, oh god, William, what are you doing? Especially because, like, within the arts and crafts movement and that sort of thing, like, a lot of women were involved. Like, literally William Morris's wife did a bunch of the embroidery that they sold, and his daughter did a bunch of embroidery. There were, like, loads of women involved in the creation process in this, like, arts and crafts socialist movement thing. And then it's just like, they all just do the housework because they love it, and the men are just terrible, so they can't be left on their own to do it. Also, did I tell you that, like, all women just want to have babies now? And I was just like, I hate everything about this. So I had to stop because I was getting enraged. So, that was more of a disappointment, actually, now I think about it, because that enraged me. Question number 6. This is a nice one. Biggest surprise. Again, I've gone for 2. So I went for Stories of Your Lives and Others by Ted Chiang, which I read because I do a podcast with my friend and we take it in turns to pick a topic, and he picked this as his topic. And normally short story collections, I feel a bit, like, neutral about. Like, I usually read a short story collection, there's some standouts, there's a lot that I don't really connect with, they end up just being fine. I thought this was such an exciting short story collection. Ted Chiang has just got so many, like, really interesting ideas, and then the way he, like, explores them, I don't know, it's very, like, hard science fiction. A lot of it is really exploring, like, you know, let's take this as a start point, let's take it a couple of steps further, let's go. Some of these short stories have really haunted me. There's one that's called, like, Hell is the Absence of God, which has genuinely haunted me. I wasn't expecting to enjoy it as much as I did, and I also feel like it's one that the longer I have sat with it, the more I have thought about it. So I'm going to give myself time before I pick up his next collection, because I really want to, like, sit and process those stories before I process these stories. I have actually done a podcast episode on it, and I will link that down below if you want to hear, like, in more depth why we both find Ted Chiang really exciting, but we do. And then the other one I went for is The Essex Serpent by Sarah Perry, partly because I just went into this expecting like a historical fiction book, and then I ended up being really drawn into this like slow plot but like character study. Like I got really invested in these characters and just like how characters are interacting. There's also like a whole cool like female science, natural history type thing, which I enjoyed, but it was just I wasn't expecting to be so drawn into these characters and their relations with each other and that sort of thing, and I really loved it. Question 7 is favourite new author, debut or new to you. I'm going with someone who is new to me this year. I'm going with N.K. Jemisin because, again, I just found that this season has been so exciting and I really want to just explore all of the rest of the things that she's written because I know that her books can be quite different to each other, and that's something that I find really exciting. So I'm just really excited to like go forth on an N.K. Jemisin reading journey. That's going to be really exciting. Question 8 is newest fictional crush. I skipped this one because I don't really crush on fictional characters. Question 9 is newest favourite character. I really liked Ivy from Jane Unlimited because she was just sort of like cool. There is more going on under the surface than you think. There's a bit of a female-female romance that happened between her and a character that I really enjoyed. Yes, I don't know, I kind of struggled because I was like, there are lots of characters that I found interesting that I've read about this year. There's not so many that I'm just like, I really like you. I don't know, but that's that. Question 10 is a book that made you cry. Blue Horses by Mary Oliver. This is poetry. I've been reading this during like a bit of lockdown that was a bit testing to me. Like, you know how like bad things come in threes? That's the thing my friend says. Like, I've had my 3 bad things. I would like the good things to start coming in threes, please. But while we were having like one of the bad things, I was reading this poetry collection, and Mary Oliver's poetry is just like so soothing, and it really makes me feel like I know like my place in the world, by which I mean that like I am a part of the world, not like know your place, but like you as exactly who you are exist and there is a space for you here, and that sort of thing. It really got me, and now I need to read like everything she's ever written and reread everything she's ever written. Question number 11 is book that made you happy. I'm going to also answer this with question number 12, which is most beautiful book you've bought so far this year. I read The Enchanted April. I originally read it on my Kindle, and then I saw this beautiful Folio Society edition version of it, and I bought it. I don't know how well it's going to show up on camera, but this is like the place where they're staying, and there's like these golden rays coming down, and there's illustrations. If I can find you one. There are occasional illustrations, or are there? Yes, there are occasional illustrations in this. This was just really cheap from a second-hand bookshop that I normally like to support, but I cannot physically support right now because they're shut. And I just wanted to make sure that I like dotted in. I know I've not been buying books, but I was like, technically I've already read this book, therefore I can buy it. This is where my brain went. But yeah, this is just like a really beautiful Folio Society edition book, and yeah, it was a lovely read. It's just about like these women who like are feeling really unfulfilled, and then they go, it's like these 4 women, and they're very different to each other, and then they go and they just like spend a couple of weeks in April in this villa in Italy, and then it just like changes them. And it's not the most groundbreaking book, and in many ways it's quite like quiet and understated and blah, and like some of it you're like, I don't believe that you would change that quickly, but none of that matters because I was like deeply stressed and it was so soothing, and I was just like, yes, please just be nice women, like, or like become the nice women that you've always wanted to be and just enjoy each other's company and like become fulfilled. Yes, it really soothed me. The final question is, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? I have a small pile. I've chosen 4 books to talk about. I really want to read, starting off with one that I meant to read for Myth-Taker Readathon, and then I ended up switching up my TBR. So, Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. I do still intend on finishing this duology at some point. I know that BookTube loves it. I really enjoyed the first one, so I do want to prioritise that soon. Another one is Freshwater by Akwake and Emezi. I have heard so many good things about this. I asked for recommendations of trans and non-binary books. Just in light of recent fuckery, I was like, I need to make sure that I'm prioritising reading the types of voices that I want to support. And this was recommended to me so much, and I already owned it, so I am really excited to go into this. I know that it's about someone, Ada, who I think she might have voices that are like gods. I don't really know, but I've heard very good things. Next up is The Remainder by Alia, Trabucco, Zeran, which translated by Sophie Hughes, which is set in Chile, and it follows these children of these revolutionaries as they go on this like road trip. This is another one, along with this, which came through the Queer Book Box. I cancelled my Queer Book Box subscription at the time because I was like, oh, I don't need a new book every month. That said, I really enjoy the books that they sent me, so I'm just trying to read them soon and prioritise them, and then maybe I might put up my subscription again, I don't know. And then finally, Constellation Myths by Eratosthenes and Hyginus, just because I haven't read any like classic ancient Greek stuff in a while, and I thought that Constellation Myths would be a nice thing to like dip into soon, so I'm really excited to do that, just like myths to do with the stars and constellations. That's it. That's this year's mid-year book freakout tag. I would love to know if you have read any of these. What are your thoughts on them? Do you have any recommendations? Oh, one thing I would like to say, if you do have any recommendations for other books by trans and non-binary authors that I should really prioritise getting my hands on, do let me know, because essentially it's my birthday in July, and I think once my birthday has happened, I'm going to be asking for books for my birthday, but then also once my birthday has happened, I think I will have read enough books that I will then allow myself to buy books again. So like, if there's any I should be prioritising, please let me know. But otherwise, I would love to hear how your reading year has gone so far. I hope you have the loveliest rest of the reading year to go, and I'll see you next time for something different.